Hello, Sociology of Sexuality students, and welcome to the Unit 4 overview for our class. So as usual, I'm going to take us over to Blackboard and we will start to go through Unit number 4 together. I just want to say again, thank you for working through this semester. I know it's been a very rough start to the semester and is, going to be a very intense semester. So please reach out to me if you do have any questions, need any help, or looking for guidance. I am here to support you. Otherwise, keep on, using these overview videos to guide you as you work through our units. And let's go take a look now at Blackboard together. So again, our home page has everything on the home page, so you don't even have to worry about anything on the left side. And you'll scroll down and you will get to Unit number 4. Interrupting the status quo is fierce advocacy for justice. Unit number 4 takes us from October 4th through the 15th. It has 5 tasks, just like previous ones. This video will be right here. You will start with a discussion board post, just as usual. So you can click here to launch, or you can do it up here. You're going to look for your particular group, right? Oh, you should only see the help and confusions forum, and then also yours. I see all of them because I'm the professor. And then when you click on it, right, there'll be a Unit number 4 thread up here for you to answer as well. After you've completed that discussion board post, which of course I usually recommend you do during that first week of the unit, so sort of in the middle of our 2-week unit, then you get into the heart of the unit, what I want you to read, watch, and hear. This one is also a bit of a lighter unit. I know the middle of the semester can be heavy. So for this particular unit, we are continuing to build on our understandings of what LGBTQ activism in the United States looks like and how racial justice, sexuality justice, gender justice all intersect. So you might remember from the beginning of the semester seeing the reference to Sylvia Rivera's speech at a 1973 Pride rally, right, which is 4 years after the Stonewall riots. So I want you to watch this speech, right? And the speech is really intense because she is, she's someone who was there at the Stonewall Inn, leading the way, was part of the riots against the police and police violence that night and the next couple nights. That was in 1969. And then every June since then, right, we commemorate the Stonewall riots with what we call Pride, LGBTQ Pride. And so these Pride events, right, started in 1970, 71, 72, 73. And so in 1973, just, 4 years later, she had been invited to speak, but then they decided they didn't really want to let her on stage. And she really had to fight to be let up. And as a, trans Latina, the extreme amount of transphobia and racism that she was experiencing within the mainstream lesbian and gay movement is something that we still see reflected today. And so there are mainstream LGBTQ organizations like the Human Rights Campaign, if you've ever seen that blue square with the yellow equal sign. They're constantly being called out for their transphobia, their classism, for throwing trans people under the bus in order to get equal protections passed for lesbians and gays in the workplace. They try to be better, but it's really hard when they're an organization that is really run by and for, at least at the national level, middle class and richer and largely white lesbian and gay people. HRC themselves claim that they try not to be as exclusionary as they have been in the past. But arguably, they're not anywhere near as radical or racial justice centered as organizations here in New York City, like the Audre Lorde Project, the Sylvia Rivera Law Project, the Anti-Violence Project, which is a LGBTQ organization that provides supports for LGBTQ people who are experiencing, domestic violence, sexual assault, hate crimes. And so think about what that means to be someone who was at the forefront of this fight and was at the forefront of experiencing violence and at the forefront of having the fortitude to fight back and create change. And then being booed by who you might consider to be your own people, right? The larger LGBTQ community just isn't actually a real thing. There isn't a singular community of us. And so think about what it means then for Sylvia Rivera to finally be led on stage and finally be heard and finally have this emotional release. This particular one that I have linked to also has closed captions, so you can read along with it if you have trouble hearing what she's saying, because it is a recording from 1973. And reflecting back on your thoughts about watching it at the beginning of the unit or the beginning of our semester, watching it now, and then I want you to watch a more recent video. And this happened in 2015. A trans Latina activist was at an LGBTQ reception at the White House, and she interrupted the president. And so I want you to watch this video of her interrupting and read this little bit about it as well. And compare and contrast what it means for, Sylvia Rivera to be doing this in 73, and then Genesette Gutierrez to be doing this in, 2015. People are still doing this today. There has to be, when you are someone who is part of a group that is very marginalized, very stigmatized, who experiences a lot of oppression, not just from individuals, but from the systems that organize our daily lives, you often have to be very loud, and you have to yell a little, or you have to snap a little, right? And in activism, those screams, those snaps can be really useful. And so I want you to, kind of just think about what this means, right? Read through what I've written here. And then there's just 2 readings. One is a chapter from the book called Violence Against Queer People, Race, Class, Gender, and the Persistence of LGBT Discrimination. This is a really, I feel, thorough chapter that helps us to understand, again, why talking about homophobia is not enough, but that racism, homophobia, and classism are all intersecting. And you saw this a lot in our last unit. And you're going to continue to see this in units as we go. So just read a bit here. It's a bit of a lengthy chapter, but it's so well done, where Doug Meyer just goes through all the ways in which, talking about attacks as hate crimes, when we're talking about, people's experiences of homophobia, what we're usually also talking about as well is that intersection of homophobia and racism and classism, as well as transphobia and, I would say, cisgenderist gender normativity. Then I also want you to read just part of this chapter. The full chapter is provided, but you don't have to read the full thing. So it's a chapter from this book called Brown Transfigurations, Rethinking Race, Gender, and Sexuality in Chicana X and Latinx Studies. And as you scroll down, right, you go through these parts, you're like, okay, maybe you're just interested, checking out what the names of the other chapters are. You can skip through the acknowledgments. And here we are, the introduction. So you'll see here, they're actually talking about Gutierrez's experience at the White House, right? And I like that they call it Genesette Gutierrez shouts the White House brown, right? So think about, why, right? The scene that the author is setting. Why did he set the scene this way? And then there's a second scene that this author has provided. And I just want you to read through page 13, almost to the end of 13. I'll show you here. Right, so to the end here. So where this starts, you don't have to read. But getting through this, the first 13 pages of the introduction, I think, will be really helpful for you. And think about what it means to criminalize identity. Think about the unit previous to this one in the documentary about the Jersey Four, right? The black women in the documentary were assumed to be aggressors because of their race, and for some of them, their gender expression being a bit more butch or masculine or masked. Think about, what people at Stonewall experienced in '69, what Sylvia Rivera and Marsha P. Johnson experienced for years after that. Why did Genesette Gutierrez interrupt President Obama to demand attention to LGBTQ immigrants in detention centers across the country? Why were we not paying attention to that already? This is why we need that intersectional lens to understand how the social world works. It's not just heterosexism alone, right? Heterosexism being homophobia in the ways that it's institutionalized into our social systems, like healthcare system, education system, the economy, family, right? So it's not just heterosexism alone, but how racism, heterosexism, homophobia, gender norms, classism, anti-immigrant hate all intersect to shape people's lived experiences. So after you've completed the readings, taken some notes, and reflected on these questions, there is, as usual, a quick facts check-in and a one-sentence summary. The quick fact check-in, right, click to launch, or you can click here. Again, it's 3 questions. You can, stop and come back to it. You can, it's open notes, open book, right? It's just 3 questions. Remembering, again, the quick facts check-in, go back and fix wrong answers if you get a wrong answer at the end. It'll tell you that you got a wrong answer at the end, and it'll even give you feedback from me, right? So make sure that you're taking your time with these, because they are meant to help you reflect on your learning process. And then the one-sentence summary. This one, I'm asking you to answer the question, for whom, how, and why are we rethinking race, gender, and sexuality in this unit or in this course? So remember that rethinking gender, race, and sexuality. Right, here we see it here, rethinking race, gender, and sexuality, right? So what is being rethought? Who's doing the rethinking? Why do we need to do the rethinking? Who's benefiting if we do the rethinking? How does the rethinking help us to have a better picture of the social world, and why these inequalities and violences are so enduring, right? So as long as you are somewhere near topic, you're going to get your 2 out of 2 points. And remember that I am accumulating everything into our Google Sheets, and we'll continue on putting them here along the bottom, because you will, just as you did previously, you will continue to reflect on the one-sentence summaries your own as well as your peers throughout the semester. This is part of building knowledge, right? We have to reflect back on what we learned, reflect back on what we wrote, and maybe also make that a little bit better, clearer, more succinct. So there will be one other task added to our unit, a course check-in with me. It will just be a quick survey on SurveyMonkey. It'll just be a few questions, but that will allow you to earn those 5 points for checking in with me. Because remember, at the beginning of the semester, I really wanted everybody to meet with me via Zoom in your groups, that you're grouped with on your discussion board. But many of you were not happy with that arrangement. And since we're an asynchronous class, I honored your feelings and your desires for our asynchronous class. So instead, you're going to do a survey check-in twice this semester. And the first time will be here in this unit number 4. And that way, when you check in with me, you can also indicate if you would like to meet with me, and we can set up a time to talk to make sure that you feel solid in your progress in the class so far, right? Because unit number 4 is it's weeks 7 and 8, which is, week 8 is halfway through the semester. And so, we're at that halfway mark. It goes by very fast each semester. So I want to make sure that everybody's feeling pretty confident. And also ensure that if you are missing assignments, that you reach out to me ASAP and talk about making those up, especially if you aren't going to hit our mid-semester deadline for when I want everything that hasn't been completed yet to be completed. Okay, reach out if you have any questions. I am here to help. Again, you can text me, you can email me, you can, respond on Remind. I am here to help. I know that in an asynchronous class, it can be really hard because we don't meet regularly. So, I do these videos to help you, sort of replace what we would do in the classroom and communicate with you in various ways in order to replace what would be done in the classroom. But I'm always happy to do more and provide more supports to ensure your success in the class. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you online.